Welcome to the channel, everyone. Today we are going to do a step-by-step on how to carve a hot dog hat gnome. This is a goofy little guy. He's a great gag gift or a Christmas ornament. Just put a little hook on him right there and hang him up as a funny little giveaway or whatnot. But not too difficult of a carve, so we're going to get on it. Like most of my carvings here, we're going to start by marking our center line. So go ahead and do that. Easy way to do this, find your center line here and use your finger as a guide. So get in the middle, finger as a guide, and just go up. This is a 1.5 inch block by 1.5 inch by about 4. I think it's just shy of 4 inches. All right, then on the corner here, we're going to divide that in half as well. If you've seen some of my other videos, I do this quite a bit. So, and on the opposite corner, same deal. Go ahead and mark that up. All right, make sure your knives are sharp and make sure you have a carving glove. We want to be safe. You can probably do this with a standard pocket knife. I have not tried, but I don't see why you couldn't. I will be using a couple different carving knives here, as well as a B tool. Again, you can probably do this with just a standard pocket knife if you really wanted to. I haven't tried to carve this with one, but I don't see why it wouldn't work. A little tear out, but that's okay. We'll fix that in a little bit. We are carving down just in between those two lines on both corners that we marked the extra line. This will give us our starting place. That's all right. Okay, now pick wherever you want, whatever edge you want to be the front versus the back. I think I'm gonna do something like this. And as you can see, to make sure we get more of the hot dog and the bun, his nose has to be quite a bit lower than some of the other gnomes I've made. So we're gonna put his nose about right here. We're marking the top of his nose. About right there. And that is how we're going to mark out the edges of his hat as well. So mark the top of his nose, bring the edges down, and we will also wrap those around to the back side. This guy will be mostly hot dog and hot dog bun, but that's okay. Now that we've got that marked, we'll put in our stop cut. So we're just going to cut in and up to separate the gnome hat from the rest of the body. So we'll just do a stop cut all the way around. I'm gonna take off this little bit here too. We'll do that. We'll get that more later on, but just to help clean that up. That's the back side. I do try to get my stop cuts not like super crazy deep, but you do want them. You do want them to be deep. Depth is our friend. All right. As you can see, this guy is a little skinnier than the actual block that we've got here. So we are going to draw out our little mustard line there. And these center lines we drew will actually become the edges of the bun. So that works out pretty well. So we'll draw our little mustard line and we'll start to separate the hot dog from the bun. So what I did for that is at first I just drew it with a regular pencil like that. We're not going to carve the mustard line quite yet. But to draw it on there, and then after I did that, I then went over it again on both sides to try to get some more volume of it. So we'll see how that goes. And now we will start by separating hot dog, carve in like that. You can also draw the rest of the hot dog on top. We have to carve into the end grain a little bit on this, so that's a little weird, but it's not too bad. As long as your knife's sharp, that is. Not too bad. Just like carving anything else. End grain is a little picky, but we'll kind of like V-cut this around the edge because we will want to round off the hot dog, but that helps. We do also kind of go in from the other side as well. You can round over the top of the dog if you want. Something we will need to do. Okay. And this is where that V tool came in handy. So I just went up the side and I just followed that line to separate. Now you can do that with just a regular knife too, you know, cut in and do your 2 V cuts, but if you got the tool, use the tool. But if you don't, just use your knife. So that separates our hot dog. We're then going to score it anyway with the knife to help create that separation a little more. But that V tool really gets us started, which is pretty helpful, I think. See, we've already got a good separation of the dog from the bun. And we can go down here like this and clean this up a little bit. So we're starting to get separation here. Round the top off a little bit more. You're just trying to gauge the dog versus the bun, you know, with rounding off the end and making sure just the dimensions and, you know, comparatively speaking, that it works. Okay, it looks like we veered off to the side just a little bit with this guy, so let's see if we can correct that. There we go. Okay. So we got a good start, the rough out of the dog. The mustard is probably the most challenging part of this whole thing because it's just relief carving the whole way. So what we got to do is we have to create our border. So we're going to go straight in all the way around the edge of the mustard and then, you know, carve up to it so that it's raised. You know, there's, you know, definitely texture there. So we're going to do that, and I might skip ahead in the video a little bit just for the sake of time. Okay, so now that we have our border cut around, we're going to cut up to it. And the more we remove here, the better it will be. You'll see what I mean in a moment. The more that we are able to separate the hot dog from the mustard, the better it will be for us in the long run. Near the end, when we do some more finishing and touch up. Because once again, that gives us depth and carving is your friend. I just heard something crack. Oh, that wood grain right there. That's what cracked. It's all right. So just be careful not to chop off your mustard. Don't want to do that. And if you've got like a detail carving knife, that might come in handy here. I'm still pretty positive you could do this with just a regular pocket knife. Like I said, I'm pretty sure you could still probably do this with just a regular pocket knife. This was one of my carvings that I have never tried with a regular pocket knife. Most things I do attempt at least once to make sure that it can be done, but this one I'm pretty sure it can be. With this, we can, when we finish the lower part, we'll go deeper here to separate the nose from the hot dog, so that's not a big deal. If you can keep that distance now, that'll help, but if not, that's all right. We can remedy that later. Some of these tight turns will be a little challenging. You might have to grab a detail knife, but they're not so bad. All right. Once you're happy with the depth that you have, remember we can always come back and do more later as we see how things are progressing. All right, so one of the challenges of this carving is as we are relief cutting to make the mustard more prominent, it is flattening the top of the hot dog. So we will find as we are adding some finishing touches, we're going to try to round off the hot dog as best we can so it doesn't have that kind of flat look as we carved away from the mustard, which we'll do a little bit more of that as we get to the end. So now we're going to switch to the bun. Now the bun is pretty easy. It's really just carving down, carving down the sides to the point where you're fairly happy with the distance. I mean, I carved the back off to about this right here, as you can see, and then carving the sides down to where they're just, you know, a little more rounded. Looks like on this original one, hot dog was maybe a little deeper into it, but that's all right. So we're gonna do that next. Just carving down the sides. I'm trying to give it a rounded look as well as we do that. We will likely have to extend our stop cuts that we put in earlier, but that's okay. That's, you know, not a big deal, not hard. Especially not on the edges. You just there we go. Stop cuts extended. We're just carving away, making a hot dog bun. Probably not something you ever thought you would carve when you first picked up a pocket knife to whittle or some carving knives. Yeah, I'm gonna put a hot dog hat on a gnome. Definitely wasn't something I ever thought I'd do, but you know, the idea came to mind one day and I couldn't help myself. Just could not help myself. You can go down this way too if you need to. We do want to make sure we get all of these edges so you can see where we have our center lines there, which means we haven't carved over that. And if you're going to paint this guy, which I imagine you will, you want to make sure we carve off at least everything around the edges so it paints better. That has at least been my experience. Or even if you don't paint it and you just oil it, the oil seems to take better if you get that layer off. This is another example of where to extend our stop cuts. We can just do this now. We're going to carve down to those two lines. Just like that. Take a look. Not so bad. All right. Now the other thing we need to do with this bun is we need to round over top. So we need to round over the end grain, which can be a little daunting at first if you're not used to carving off end grain. Again, if your knife is sharp, shouldn't be an issue. If your knife is less than ideally sharp, then you should fix that. Just kidding. Well, I mean, you should, but you'll have a more difficult time, a more frustrating time. I read in a whittling book one time that the #1 rule of wood carving or whittling is having a very, 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 very sharp knife. Rule number 2, refer to rule number 1. For this, I'm going to go more on the inside. Just carve that out kind of from the inside. That's kind of an uncomfortable cut too, if you're not used to it. So just feels a little weird. Carving on an angle through end grain, you know, it's not something you do a whole lot. And I mean, yeah, just a little different. But it was the best way I could think of to get these guys carved. I'll round this off just a little bit. All right, I'm gonna keep on moving down. What we're gonna do now is we're going to make his nose. So from the edges here, we're just gonna bring it in. Carve his nose. We're going to put a stop cut here. Carve down to those two lines. Do a nice 3-corner cut here. Get some depth. Another 3-corner cut here. More depth. And carve that down. Then we got a rough out of his nose. Now, as we said, we're going to give a little more depth back. So we do that just by deepening our cuts. Wherever you need to. I'm right-handed, so sometimes carving on the opposite side can be a little tricky. But that's okay. Make sure we get all those little guys out of there. And then we will also round off the bottom of his nose. By doing that, you attack the hard edges. If you ever need something to appear round, just cut off the edges. And when that makes a new edge, keep cutting off the edge. And if you keep attacking the edge over and over again, eventually it will either be or appear round. Eventually. Okay. Now we will be putting in his beard, so I like to add a kind of a center mark. That's where the tips of his beard will be. And then I'm going to draw up to this corner. The beard's not quite even, so I'm gonna adjust that one a little bit. There we go. Now put our stop cuts. Cut that away. Cut that away. So this is simultaneously cutting out his beard and his boots with this relief cut. Or I should say roughing out his beard and his boots. I don't really have a measurement as to how deep to go for that. Usually I go right about that deep. Gives a nice thick beard and still plenty of material for his boots. I have to do a little bit more here to separate out the bun from his beard, and that's okay. Like I said, that's not a problem at all. And if you can get some deep corner cuts where his nose and his beard kind of meet, it also helps. So we like depth. Depth is good. So if you can get those kind of deep, that will help. Yeah. Okay. Now we are going to round his beard over a little bit. And then we are going to attack these edges to make the edge of the beard round. Also give some distance with that. And same thing here. There we go. All right, now we're going to finish roughing out his boots. So somewhere around here, you know, nothing too specific. It can be as big or as little as you want. And we will chip away. Just kind of chip away those. Go down. Stop cut down, stop cut down. It's okay if you need to carve away a little bit into the beard and whatnot to create that separation. Like I usually sneak up just a little bit, so now you get that wraparound C. That wraparound of the hat. And we do that to both sides. So. Oh, well, that's all right. We went through. That's okay. Went through a little bit. That's all right. We'll just... You're probably going to do that anyway, to be honest with you, so it's not a big deal. And same thing there, you know, we... A little bit into the beard and hat just to create that wraparound effect for the bun, which we want. We want that. And then since we broke this off, we'll just kind of round that off. Make sure we clean that up. We'll round this up a little bit too. Make sure we get our pencil marks off. There we go, his boots are pretty much done. We do want to give him a little bit of separation on the back part, so we just add a stop cut and then get a V cut going. And nothing too crazy, just a little bit. Separate his legs. And now we're going to continue our rounding of the hot dog bun. Since we have kind of our borders now with the beard and with his boots, you know, we know what it's supposed to be, our dimensions in the end. Oh, that tore out. Not good. Oh, we can fix that. See? A little bit of a tear out, but no major problem. We just kind of round it out. Same thing, we just round it out both sides. You need to go down a little bit, we can. Overall, looking good, looking good. Okay, now the most tricky part, I think, of this entire carve is the rounding of the mustard. I think it helps if you have a detail knife, but you're just trying to clean up and create that rounded look. So you gotta go over all those edges with the detail knife. See, and now I flattened that too much, so I gotta try to fix that. Gotta go over all those edges and try to make it look liquid, like liquid, which is a little bit of a challenge for people like me. Maybe it's easy for you, I don't know. But it is a little bit of a challenge. I think it is anyway, so if you want to practice on something else and then come back, you know, that's up to you. Because wood grain's still going to act like wood grain even when you're doing this. And it can be a little tricky to try to carve properly with the wood grain and get those angles the way you want to. And this is why the more depth that you have when you first relief cut this out, the better, because you'll have more to work with and that will be to your advantage. At the same time, I'm also trying to keep the hot dog part looking as round as it can, because the relief carving does flatten it. That was how we, you know, got the mustard to stick up. So definitely the trickiest part of what is overall a fairly simple carve this is. I would say is the hardest part of the hot dog hat gnome. Just like anything though, if you want it to be round or appear round, attack the edges. Okay. That looks pretty good. And once again, we're going to try to take off as many of these. Oh boy, that tore out. As many of these edges as we can on the hot dog as well, so that it looks round. So balancing the necessary depth needed to show the necessary depth needed to show the mustard versus the hot dog, and also keep the hot dog round. I think we got it. Another nice thing with the V tool is at the end here, you can just kind of run it up the sides. This is a 3mm V tool. Run it up the sides and really clean up that gap between the bun and the dog. So once you're happy with that, then usually just round off these hard edges. Go all the way around the bun. At the bottom, might need to deepen the stop cut a little bit. It's all right. And just round those off. Might deepen that stop cut. Maybe take a little bit off his nose. But overall, he's not an overly complicated carve. Clean up any other little spots you need to. Make sure you get your all pencil marks off. And keep going until you're happy with how round the bun is, how separated the little mustard is, or ketchup, depending on what you're putting on it. I'm kind of a mustard guy for my hot dogs, but do just a little bit more. Try to fix some of these tear outs. Yeah, there you go. Not an overly complicated carve. Pretty simple. Pretty straightforward for the most part. And he's a goofy little guy to make. So super fun to give as gifts. You can make him a Christmas ornament if you want to. And hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And hope to see you on another one.